Ada kawan I datang rumah nak ambil barang, dia nak beli batu lah time tu. Lepas tu I cakap okay lah, tak apalah, datang lah because I know them personally kan. So he came with his wife and 2 kids. Wife dia dalam pantang datang sebab they really wanted batu. Paling tinggi I pernah dapat, I made 2,000 a day from math tu. Orang kan selalu cakap kalau isap dada ni takut polis.
Kebiasaannya, jika kita sebut mengenai ketagihan, sudah pasti antara perkara yang terlintas di fikiran adalah dadah, alkohol atau rokok. Namun wujudnya pelbagai lagi jenis ketagihan yang boleh membinasakan kehidupan seseorang. Percaya atau tidak, ketagihan mengejar wang dan kuasa antara faktor utama Maria menjadi pengedar dadah pada usia belasan tahun. Ikuti kisah Maria yang pernah menjadi tokan dadah wanita selama 14 tahun. Okey Maria, terima kasih kerana sudi bersama-sama kita hari ini. Maria mungkin boleh ceritakan sedikit latar belakang?
Okey, nama saya Maria, berumur 31 tahun, berasal dari sekarang saya tengah sambung belajar.
Okey, Maria mungkin boleh cerita detik-detik pertama pelibatan dengan dadah tu. Macam mana dia start?
Okay, masa Form 2, 14 years old, I start dengan isap ganja dulu dengan kawan-kawan lah, introduced by friends. And then Form 3 isap rokok, and then moving on sampai I masuk U, umur 18 baru I start my first jual.
Jadi kalau gambarkan Maria punya childhood, punya zaman remaja, macam mana tu?
Okay, family-wise, family I quite strict. Then both parents bekerja. Then sebab I anak kedua kan, so my parents macam bagi more attention to my elder and younger sibling. So I ni macam independent lah seorang-seorang. So they don't really bother what I was doing on my own time unless as long as I punya results okay. Sebenarnya jual tu happen tak plan pun. Sebab I pergi belajar dekat so tempat baru kan, I had to figure out how to get my own supply. So instead of cari baru kat sana sebab I tak kenal orang, so I bawa my own stash. And then bila bawa pun bawa banyak lah sebab I takkan nak kerap balik kan. And then I had friends in so selalu ambil from then bawa pergi. So bila barang tu banyak, I met with other people yang isap juga. So macam it's natural lah benda tu, like you meet other people who smokes. So from there diorang pula aku beli sikit lah barang kau. Then I realise that I bought this for macam RM100 je. Lepas tu bila dah potong-potong jual-jual kat member, ada untung. From there it's like easy money. Macam senang je buat duit. I started selling lah.
Berapa pendapatan masa tu yang, ialah sebagai seorang pelajar kan, berapa pendapatan masa you jual? Masa ni you jual ganja je kan?
Ganja sahaja. Selesa jugalah hidup because me and my friends, we rented a condo away from campus. And then kira kalau macam nak shopping, nak party every week tu memang tak ada masalah lah. So let's say every time I load from and I bawa to which is around every 2 weeks, boleh lah dapat few hundred of untung. I mean my parents never figured out, and then because I was not home anymore. Lepas tu bila balik pun diorang bukannya perasan pun kan. And then university wise pun tak pernah kantoi. It started with weed, and then college students kan biasa dah pergi clubs and parties. And then second thing it went towards ecstasy because I never liked drinking. So when we go to clubs, my friends ramai yang minum kan, I never liked the alcohol punya high. So started taking ecstasy lah. So start lah me and a group of friends buat, what those people nowadays buat private party. Yeah, time to. So when we host those kind of parties, we need supplies. So I know people from I punya weed punya dealing kan. So from ganja, dia dah upgrade sikit. Lepas pergi ambil, like a bag of pills, a bag of ecstasy, bawa datang balik jual. And then at that time, you can sell it for RM40 per pill. 35 to 40. And then if you buy in bulk, let's say, I think the cheapest I got beli 100, you get it for like RM9 per pill. But you sell it at 35 to 40.
Wow.
Even if you tipu kawan-kawan cakap, okay dah kau member aku jual kau RM20, you still untung banyak. My addiction was not the dadah itself, but the entire lifestyle I was living.
The power, the money.
Yes, the power, the money, the attention. Then got my first job, I was 21 lah. Time tu mengguna, but not so much macam ecstasy semua. I memang tak berapa ambil. Weed, ganja memang hari-hari. Macam orang isap rokok kan, I memang tak pernah tinggal lah weed tu. But bila start kerja, because I kira macam ada split identity kan, I was like a party girl and all that. Lepas tu nak maintain jadi corporate
Kerjaya
punya person juga. So time tu baru I start isap meth, isap shabu. So even if you meet strangers kan, you tengok pun dah macam ni mesti hisap kat ni. So macam bila kenal, you can just bond with people you tak kenal dekat club macam tu kan. So from there adalah acquaintances. So it always starts with jom Tontong ambil barang sekali, tengok respon dia macam mana.
So itu strategi you lah.
The peak of my dealing career would be masa umur I dalam 24, 25. Then it was like I have it all lah time tu. I literally felt like that lah. I felt like I have it all. I nak pergi travel, holiday, duit ada. I nak pergi, like makan anywhere, anytime. There was no worry of nak kira duit gaji ada. Like my job, my actual job, and then selalu kan like bayar kereta, bayar tu bayar ni, lepas tu you have to like, okay banyak ni je aku ada nak enjoy. I never had that problem. When it comes to dating, kalau macam selalu kau orang cakap lelaki tukar-tukar perempuan macam tukar baju kan, but I was doing the exact same thing. I can literally date anyone I wanted. Tapi the kind of people pun yang macam tu lah juga kan, yang jenis party, yang jenis minum, yang jenis not husband material. Tapi when it comes to like I really want to like meet a person, macam like bila dah betul-betul nak bercinta tu kan, it never works because everyone was trying to get close to me for the money and also for the free drugs. At the age of 26, I got married. Itu pun nak kahwin tu, that calon suami tu, it's lebih kurang macam parents pilih jugalah. There was actually a few guys, like my parents punya kawan anak-anak diorang. So macam from out of these few guys, I told my parents, I leave it to you. So they picked a guy and then I was okay with it.
Kahwin.
Tak adalah macam sayang kapal. I mean, he was decent lah in the beginning kan. Then kahwin. Masa kahwin tu I terus cuci tangan. I quit all this drug stuff. I don't use, I don't sell anymore. So it's like a fresh start lah. Lepas tu macam life was okay lah, in the beginning adjusting and all that. Tapi it didn't work out. Although I fell in love with the guy, he treated me well and all that, but the marriage did not work out.
So berapa tahun usia perkahwinan tu sebelum?
Tak sampai 2 tahun pun. It was just 1.5 years. Because of the divorce, I depressed lah. I got depressed. It was really bad. I didn't want to leave my house. So I lost my job. So mulalah start rumah sewa dah tak boleh nak bayar sebab kerja semua tak ada kan. And then I was literally living in my car for like a month.
Wow.
Yeah. Lepas tu that was when dia jadi macam I can't do this anymore lah. Like I've been time tu I freelance jugalah sekejap nak cari duit kan to survive. At one point because I was living in my car kan, I tidur dalam kereta, mandi dekat highway. I akan berhenti pagi situ tidur dekat R&R. That was like my go-to place lah sebab tak ada orang kan. So bila dah I think almost a month I was keeping up
lowest point.
It was at that particular time it was my low point lah. So I rasa macam like, come on, I've lived life, you know, I've been to places, I've done stuff. So macam apa ni? Aku duduk dalam kereta out of a suitcase, you know. That was when I was like, dah lah, I'm gonna go back to selling, because I wanted money fast and I needed a lot. But I nak cari rumah to get a proper place to stay. It was just one phone call to an old contact, and then it was, I think, 2 days worth of dealing. I bayar lah deposit rumah dekat area.
Agak
It
high
was
end.
a 3-bedroom condo. Yeah, from living in my car to that for 2 days. So instantly the entire high and thrill of dealing just came back.
So ni kira ni fasa yang kedua lah. Dah lebih matang, dah berkerjaya, dah pun melalui fasa penceraian. So ini ada perbezaan tak dealing this time with yang
Yes.
first?
Masa the first part of dealing dulu tu, tengah remaja kan. So the whole thing was more about nak enjoy, suka-suka, you know. And then when this time around, the second time ni, sebab lepas cerai tu I macam down gila tau. So this whole thing is like I want that power again. So dia macam go big or go home.
Okay.
Kalau nak buat besar terus, you know. So I was reading math sebab benda yang paling cepat and laju lah nak buat duit, because it's expensive kan. The street price was expensive. Paling tinggi I pernah dapat, I made 2,000 a day from math only.
Oh wow. Masa tu at this stage, siapa yang who were your clients? Sebab kalau dah boleh dapat 2,000 sehari, mesti orang-orang yang ada duit lah kiranya kan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, because it was math, Shabu kan. So first thing I don't sell to end user. It was more like me supplying to other dealers. So in bulk lah jual banyak macam tu. So I only kira yang communicate dengan I just very few people. Diorang je, I macam jual dengan diorang, so diorang yang supply. There are certain like few users who buys directly from me, who are close contacts, and unfortunately they are VIPs. They are even celebrities, you know, that you kind of get into that circle. So senang jugalah, because you know diorang nak barang, nak on time, and diorang nak senang. Even if you charge extra, they don't care. Macam okay, tak apa, nak pukul berapa I pergi hantar sampai depan pintu rumah, tapi you bayar mahal sikit lah daripada orang biasa. Then I said no problem, because as long as they don't have to risk going out and carrying the stuff. Masa tu nak raya, this was 2017, bulan puasa lah. Ada kawan I datang rumah nak ambil barang, dia nak beli batu lah time tu. Lepas tu I cakap okay lah, tak apalah, datang lah, because I know them personally kan. So he came with his wife and 2 kids. Satu anak dia I think it was like 2-3 years old, and then another one tu baby baru lahir. Wife dia dalam pantang datang sebab they really wanted batu. So I macam okay lah, dia kata duit ada cukup apa semua. So bila dah datang, I bagi lah, belanja, nak hisap dah dulu kan. Lepas tu dia tengah hisap, sekejap lagi wife pass the baby to him, wife pula hisap, and I'm like, your kids are there. And then the one yang 2-3 years old tu, she's watching. She's watching kan. Lepas tu I jadi macam jam sekejap tau time tu. Lepas tu okay lah, masa lepas dia dah hisap pun semua, dah berborak kejap tu, dia cakap dia nak beli. And then he has, like, I saw that was the only money he had. Lepas tu dia cakap, ni duit nak beli baju raya anak-anak ni, aku nak balik kampung. Tapi tak apalah, aku ambil dulu, nanti pandai lah aku rolling kan. And I'm like, no, you can't do that to your... Budak tu tak tahu apa-apa kot kan. I mean like, don't ruin raya for the child. Lepas tu I macam, tak apalah, kau ambil je barang ni, you don't have to pay me, but just don't come back ever again. Sebab at that time I rasa macam he is ruining the kid's life, and I was enabling. So this chain reaction, I punca. I dah rasa macam tu. I started blaming myself for it. July, I started having suicidal thoughts because it was so lonely, you know. Nak keluar dah macam keluar seorang-seorang kan, nak buat benda kan. So macam kawan-kawan ajak lepak semua tak ada. And then there was a few times when I first started having those thoughts, I had to call my friend and cakap, I think I need help, like therapy or counselling. But instead of getting the right kind of attention, they laugh. Lepas tu kawan-kawan lain macam, ngarut lah apa benda lah kau ni, like, it's like a joke to them. So I terus shut off balik lah. Jadi macam, like insecure. The last thing I did was I call my mum. So masa I call mula-mula, dia tanya I nak duit ke. And I said, no, I got money. And then I said I wanted rehab. So I explain lah, like, she can't help me. I need professional help. And I need to go somewhere yang, how to say, residential treatment. Maknanya stay dekat tempat tu and cut off all my connections with the outside world. So hari ni I call my mom, discuss and all that, and then the next day we went to see the place, like find out how the admission apa semua. So I balik, I pack baju. The next day on 25th July 2017, I drove myself and my parents pergi rehab, gave them the car keys, asked them to leave, and I have been sober since.
Alhamdulillah.
Until today.
Yay.
It doesn't last forever. It might give you that drive, that that thrill and all that high, but everything is temporary and it doesn't get you anywhere lah. Girls, guys, whoever lah, who are going through this kind of things, there are places you can get help. But the first thing you need to do is admit that you are having a problem. Sebab selagi you tak mengaku yang, hey, what I'm doing is not right, I need help, then it's not going to get you anywhere lah.
Berdasarkan pengalaman saya melakukan kaunseling dan berhadapan dengan klien-klien yang terlibat dengan penagihan, semua individu tersebut mempunyai masalah mereka masing-masing. Sebab-sebab yang common yang sering diberikan oleh mereka kenapa mereka terlibat dalam penagihan adalah antaranya satu, curiosity ataupun sifat membuat-buat ingin tahu yang tinggi. Okay. Yang kedua, faktor peer pressure ataupun tekanan rakan sebaya, pengaruh rakan sebaya. Dan yang ketiga juga traumatic experiences, pengalaman-pengalaman traumatic seperti abuse, seperti neglect, abandonment. Dia seorang pengambil risiko. Dia secara personalitinya, dia seorang risk taker. Dia suka mengambil risiko. Dia suka kepada cabaran-cabaran. Jadi itu antara salah satu faktor utama. Dan juga lifestyle pada waktu itu bagi dia cool. Itu yang akhirnya dia mencuba drugs dan hanyut dalam lifestyle tu. Bukan hanya dengan menggunakan dadah tetapi juga dengan menjual. Dan the money that she received, yang dapat kawan-kawan ramai kan, dia rasa important, itu hanyut dalam lifestyle dia. Nasihat saya kepada mereka yang di luar sana, kepada individu yang aktif menggunakan dadah ataupun kepada ahli keluarga di mana orang tersayang terlibat dalam penggunaan dadah, adalah seek help. Cari bantuan, dapatkan bantuan. Dalam negara kita ni banyak pusat-pusat rawatan pemulihan yang menyediakan program rawatan dan pemulihan, sama ada di bawah kelolaan kerajaan, pusat-pusat yang dikendalikan oleh kerajaan, atau juga pusat-pusat rawatan pemulihan yang dikendalikan oleh NGO ataupun swasta. Dan penagihan dadah ni boleh dirawat. Kita boleh pulih. Orang tersayang boleh berubah jika mendapatkan rawatan yang sewajarnya.
Adalah malang bagi wanita yang menggunakan kelebihannya untuk membinasakan kehidupan orang lain. Semoga Maria terus giat menebus kisah silamnya dan berbakti kepada masyarakat. Mengedar dadah adalah kesalahan paling teruk di bawah Akta Dadah Berbahaya 1952 kerana ianya membawa hukuman mati mandatory. Ingatlah, wang dan kuasa semata-mata hanya menjanjikan kepuasan sementara.
But instead of getting the right kind of attention, they laugh. diorang gelak bila I cakap aku rasa I need counselling or therapy or whatever, you know, like something is not right with my head anymore. Lepas tu kawan-kawan lain macam, ngarut lah, apa benda lah kau ni, you know, like it's like a joke to them. So I terus shut off balik lah.